SATSANG 1. Shantinilaya Lifehouse, Spain, July 31, 2020. Alright, who wants to start the debate? Elisa, do we have a topic? No. There are many people who have asked me to talk a little bit again, not completely, but scalar waves, for example. So, evidently, well, there's no question of repeating everything that has been said about scalar waves. Simply, scalar waves represent what we could call, vulgarly at first, a shape wave. They are geometric patterns. The oldest one is what is called the Lakhovsky circuit, and then, little by little, inventors gave their names to the shape they created. A scalar wave does not depend on a structure but on a design. This means that, for example, the Lakhovsky design is going to be as effective when drawn as it is on the form of an electronic circuit, an engraved motherboard. So, evidently I'm not going to explain the different drawings. Just know that at the moment there are 5 drawings that correspond in some way to the generation of a scalar wave. The peculiarity of a scalar wave is that it is not polarized, it is neither electric nor electromagnetic, even though there are devices that use electricity. But what interests us here, which is not really a therapeutic act, but an act, it is a wave that will allow you to promote the experience and installation of time zero. So, in these drawings, you have the Lakhovsky that I just told you about, which is made up of 7 open circles and 7 other nested circles, open on the other side, that is to say that the circle is not closed. The Lakhovsky circuit is certainly the one that has been used the most because it was its inventor who created it in the first part of the 20th century, and it is connected, more or less indirectly, to the machine of a Frenchman, who was called Mr. Ouro, who had proposed in a French hospital in Bordeaux, to use these electrically powered systems, really to treat degenerative diseases. Following that, you have researchers who created other designs. You have, for example, the Flanagan, who was an engineer who died a short time ago, who draws a kind of spiral movement with small cubes that rotate on spiral axes. So, to represent it to you, you just type, just Flanagan on the internet, and you'll get the drawing. A lot of brothers and sisters have printed these drawings and apply this drawing on the body wherever they want. The third shape, the most perfect geometric shape, is called the Tesseract. The Tesseract engineer, that's just his name, created a figure with, on a circle, 12 equidistant peripheral points, and each point is connected to the 11 others. The Tesseract has 12 points, it is the one that Mr. Tesseract invented, and we had the idea, with a friend who makes orgonites, to have a motherboard made with not 12 points but 24 points. This is what Elisa has here, we'll show you later. So the Tesseract, Flanagan, Lakhovsky and modified Lakhovsky scalar waves, which I told you about 7 half circles open in one direction, and other researchers created Lakhovsky type scalar waves in the beginning, the oscillating circuit as it is called, with 9 circles. Whether it is the original Lakhovsky or the modern Lakhovsky, whether it is the Flanagan or the Tesseract with 12 points or 24 points, you therefore have, in any case of known, 5 geometric shapes drawn or engraved, it does not matter, which all have the particularity of bringing the consciousness and the body closer to zero time, if you prefer the here and now. Tesseract 12 points, Flanagan orgonite, all assemblies are possible. Besides, we had fun, for example, to couple in orgonites, to put a motherboard with the Flanagan circuit and on the other side of the orgonite, another plate. We tested the different combinations, knowing full well that the scalar wave always had the same shape. Here you have here, for example, the orgonites that are here, you have the Flanagan, that's the drawing, we'll pass it to you, and on the other side, you have a 12-pointed Tesseract. I repeat, that even if you draw what you see on the internet, you print what you see on the internet, there will be approximately the same efficiency. I would remind you that we are not in the therapeutic or care of anything, even if, of course, some people have observed therapeutic effects. But this is not the goal being to bring you closer to time zero. Many years ago, we used a variety of quartz called the source crystal or lemur crystal, which allowed precisely to align body, soul, spirit. When I speak of an alignment, I speak of a vertical alignment, a recentering if you will. Whereas with a scalar wave, it is the information of time zero. So evidently the cells, all the human or living cells know time zero. It is well known that the living cell does not evolve in the same space-time as our consciousness for many reasons. I take a very simple example, you take a hen, you feed it, not limestone but silica, silica instead of limestone, the hen makes eggs, the shell of the egg is made of limestone. And if you replace in the hens food, the limestone with silica, you expect the eggshell to be made of silica since there is no more limestone. Well, there isn't. The eggshell is made of limestone. That means that the hen has managed to transform the silica into limestone, the silicon into limestone. We know that the difference between silica and limestone is just the electron in junction on the peripheral layer. Lefts. It's very simple. You want your memories of physics, there is a nucleus, the proton, neutrons, and you have electrons spinning around on different layers. The outermost peripheral layer, you take limestone, the limestone atom, in which direction, I don't know, if it's the addition or the extraction of an electron, it doesn't matter, there's an electron added and you turn limestone into silica or silica into limestone. Big problem, we as human beings, if we wanted to turn silica into limestone, the energy it would take would be the equivalent of the energy produced by a nuclear power plant, with temperatures in the order of 2000 degrees C, 2000. And how does this without any increase in temperature? And we realized, by studying all these metabolic and physiological processes, that the only way to transform silica into limestone was through the mitochondria, which is, in a way, one of the energy factories of the cell, the machine to produce energy. So, of course, I'm not going to get into the chemistry of it all, we're not here for that, but just know that it's the mitochondria that transforms silica into limestone. And you wonder how that's possible, since there's no increase in temperature. Well, simply, the mitochondria of the hen, you have this natural chemical transformation. There is a rise in temperature, but in a time, guardians of this world. I'll pass you the various demonstrations that have been done at the biochemical and biological level. That is to say that the cell is capable of transforming matter, but for a time that it needs, which is extremely short compared to us if we wanted to do it in a crucible. So this is what researchers have called low energy transmutation, simply by playing with time. The cells that make up us, whether chicken or man, do not evolve in the same space-time as we do. Cellular time is managed by a little piece of the cell that is right next to the nucleus. It's a geometric structure, don't bother with numbers, those with biological memories. It's called the Golgi apparatus or centriole. Now, we all know it, we listen to a music we like, we find a soul we know from another life, within the character. What's happening? Are you shivering? The hairs are erectile, you can have shivers of horror or shivers of recognition. As I said, it can be a music as well as a painting, an energy that you feel, and it's the centrioles, these famous organelles I'm talking about, which are made of silica, silicon dioxide. You know that silica is of course used in computers, it's present in the body of all animals, plants and humans, all cells. This little organelle is involved in cell division. When a radiosphysicist takes his pendulum, a lecture's antenna, a radiospheric measuring device, when you measure your vibrations with a pendulum, you only measure the oscillation frequency of this ergonite which is made of quartz. All that to tell you that transmutation is possible, the hen does it every day. All living organisms do it, but this centriole is linked, evidently, is in direct contact with consciousness. We know very well, for example, a dowser on a board of Bagvis, we knew very well that the higher the frequency in angstrom, the vibration, the more the person was in good health and it was an expanded consciousness. Cancer, for example, still with the Bagvis rule, has a specific frequency which is 4,900 angstroms. Of course, George biologists and dowsers have noticed an increase in vibrations that were previously considered normal. Being healthy started at 6,000 angstroms, and when you were at 10,000 or 11,000 angstroms, you are really open. Open, that is, expanding, welcoming and receiving, if you will, what we've been talking about from the beginning. Today, things have changed gradually and have been doing so for more than 10 years. So, we consider normality today, at the level of the human maths, is closer to 8,000 to 9,000 angstroms. So, evidently, we could say that the frequency of the level of consciousness of the Earth has gone up. All living cells, when there is cell division, go through time zero. The purpose of the scalar wave is to bring you closer to time zero. So, of course, we talk less about it today, just as 2 years ago, with an osteopathic friend, we developed systems that some of you practiced here last year, which consisted of compressing the skull in 3 stages, in osteopathy. All of this, just as the interdimensional gap resonances, today, is done in a totally natural way. We don't need tools anymore. So, all this happens directly, without intermediaries and without tools. But of course, for those who arrive at this notion of transmutation which is in progress, sometimes need tools. Once again, I am not talking about therapies here, I am talking about cellular consciousness. Crystals, we had talked about fluorine, last year or 2 years ago, we talked about the crystal source. Fluorine represents at the level of the crystalline kingdom, the highest possible frequency of resonance, which is 780 kHz. The frequency of silica is 48 kHz. I don't even remember the unit, it's not serious, it's to give you an idea of magnitude. The scalar wave is going to allow in some way to wedge you to the zero time, in the here and now, beyond the therapeutic effects that some have noticed. Of course, once again, the more spontaneous and natural you will be, the more, what has been called simplicity, humility, the way of childhood. But I can quite understand that some of you need to be equipped, we'll say, in the first instance. The scalar wave, fluorine, are in any case, at my level, this is what I found most balancing and approaching time zero. But today, we are told over and over again, finding time zero is to settle into silence, another microphone, I think. This famous grand silence is the moment, it is not necessarily the moment when you stop all movement, all speech. Is it working or not? Is the microphone working over there? Oh yes, it works. What I want to tell you by that is that whatever tools you feel you need to use for consciousness, I'm not talking about therapy, the most indispensable tool today is your own silence. When are you silent? It's not a question of words. It is the moment when your consciousness, mental, emotional, etheric, physical, are only in the present instant. We were talking about it this morning with Elisa. When you have a physical problem that has fallen upon you, you can't help but be here and now. Because your consciousness has to move towards what is called proprioception, that is to say, the perception of the body, it requires a vigilance of the consciousness, in this case on your own body to make it work, and there you are available for the truth. A lot of people, lately, have started to paint because when you paint, when you draw or when you tinker, you are absorbed, laughs as Elisa searches for the words for the translation. You're making me laugh and I'm losing it here. Laughs. So, what were we saying there? Sister. When we paint, we tinker. Now, when you do something that you have to do, I take the example of Elisa, to move around, she has to be careful with her body. The result is that you can no longer be in the moon in your world. You have to be totally there. And as soon as you are totally absorbed, whether it is gardening or anything else, you make your consciousness available for the here and now, and thus for time zero. Because it will keep your mind busy with a task, whether it is watching your body or doing your housework. At that point, what is going to happen? You will be lucid about what you are doing. And you will see the development of the locality of what is called the present instant and time zero, which are superimposed in the hour. This will prevent you from leading in projections of a new earth, in diverse and varied visions, or in excesses of the mind. You limit the influence of the person by using your person and your consciousness in the instant of what you are doing. It is in this sense that scalar waves, fluorines, Trinitarian osteopathy, I had the opportunity to develop, a few years ago in neuroscience, what is called proprioception, the perception of one's body schema. If you are entirely here and now, thinking about your body, not the disease but your body, you are going to be here and now. The transmutation, it happens in this body. It is not in the hope of a new earth, a new race or whatever. And these are the mistakes, moreover, of those who are immersed in past identifications or in projections of what will happen, or in the world after, as they say. And you are no longer in the present instant. All the tricks of spirituality are precisely to divert you from the present instant. You cannot live the present instant and give free rein to any spiritual notions, it is diametrically opposed. When you are in the present instant, spirituality does not mean anything anymore. So, today, if you are taken towards this kind of thing, you cannot find yourself. It's a decoy. It's a mistake. What is asked of us, as Anil already told me 12 years ago, is ignorance. Besides, more and more brothers and sisters, at times, live experiences, pleasant or unpleasant, no matter where there is an entity that arrives, they feel it, sometimes they see it, and this entity will always say, do not move. Be still, in your heart, and let it be what is. And at that moment, the heart will be on fire, instantly. Which is mathematically and scientifically impossible as long as you stay in history, in becoming, in visions or in some memory story. You cannot understand it, you can only experience it and demonstrate to yourselves that this is the only truth. Here we have someone who lived through this thing, there, in the space of 2 days. At that point, it's over. You can no longer identify with a past character, be it the street sweeper or Akhenaten. I have known 100 of them or a star. It's a problem of identification. As long as you are identified, even mentally, with a past event or any future, you are not free and you will suffer. It is an apprenticeship, it is not a punishment. The danger is identification with a form. I have always told you that we are all Abba, but Abba is not a form, it is not an identity, even if it can be translated as Father. It's the Father Jesus was talking about. I am my Father Ayoun. There was the Son of God, in quotation marks. Today we're talking about the Son of Man who was the new man. But this new man is not destined for any sixth race or any new world, but to remember what was named by countless teachers at the beginning of the 20th century, the sixth root race or the blue race, is only the return to the origin of creation. Because the blue race is the geneticians' mothers, it is the great mothers, the dream guardians, and it is the cetaceans, all cetaceans, but especially the fin whales, or what is called the blue whale, which is the largest mammal that has ever existed on Earth, and which carries, of course, all the ancestral memory, in order to make us remember, as Phaim said, who we are. We are the last root race, which is the first root race. But this is happening right here in this world. And when you live this truth, which is the absolute, you are no longer fooled by any future, you are no longer deceived by any future or any past. To be free, the natural state, is to be free from any past, to be free from any past, but also free from any projection and any vision. In the absolute, there is nothing to see, there is nothing to feel, there is no form. There is just the pure attitude that makes you recognize yourself. And at that moment, the whole scaffolding of spirituality appears to you, really, as a means to have gotten that far, but which you have to get rid of. There is no more Mary than Ayoun, no more intergalactic confederation, no more Arcturians, no more Vagalians, no more Melchizedek, no more stars or archangels. It is the great vacuity, the great silence. And you can only find yourself there. Stop feeding all these stories. Stop projecting a future scenario. Just be present. This is what will eventually help you if you don't succeed. The scatter waves, the fluorines or the agape resonances, which we were still doing last year every night, we were doing an agape resonance. You are in bed and we were doing this resonance. But now it just happens by just being there, being available. Being available is hic and nunc, here and now. That's where the solution is. So if you want to be free of all spiritual notions, be free of all feeling, of all perception. As I said, the stars, the doors, the chakras, the wave of life, they are always there. Autra's dimensions made us work a lot on the installation of the structure, but today, for 2.5 years, you do not need all that anymore. Besides, during this meeting, which, given the circumstances and the situation of the world, will be the last one in flesh and blood physically, if I may say so, because there is a moment, in this return to the self or to the self, when all this is superfluous. Still, we have to get there. But of course, this great silence, this confinement that has been imposed on us, has allowed an enormous number of brothers and sisters, not only to see the deceiving manipulation of the society, but also to get closer to their self. So, it has also been a great help, this notion of accepting the unacceptable, deprivation of freedom, and who have remained quiet, have found themselves again. Truth is something so simple that it was necessary to untangle all the strands, all the weaving, of past lives, of the spiritual swindle and the imposture of a consciousness, what Biddy had already named in 2012, a consciousness in the sense before consciousness. Do not confuse unconsciousness and a consciousness. In the consciousness, you can only recognize yourself, from the moment you stop the spiritual chatter, the chatter of energies, and the vagaries of consciousness, the wanderings of consciousness, in the past or in the future. Today, you do not need chakras to heal. Yes, for who you are, you only need silence, even if the vibrations are there, even if you are vibrating in the superconsciousness. At a given moment, the great silence takes you to agape. And there, you can no longer be fooled by any energy, by any archetype. I mean by archetypes, the great figures that are described, the archangels for example, but not only, who are only reflections of the truth, and therefore amputated of the truth. There is no more truth in an archangel than there is in our body, which is illusory, and yet it happens inside. Except to be autonomous, to depend on a being, no entity and no opinion. Discover your autonomy. There is no submission in freedom to any scenario, to any entity and to any master. There is no one. The sixth root race we live it now. It is not in the future as it was imagined in a linear way, as much by the pseudo-ascended masters as by the elders. Steiner spoke of it, Bernard of Montreal also, and Amram also. But when Amram, Bernard of Montreal and others were asked, they knew that there was something after the light. When Amram meditated facing the rising sun, he was penetrated by the spirit of the sun, he merged with the light. He knew that there was something after or before. But he could not verify it, he could not live it. The only one who has lived it, as I said, is Nisargadatta, no others. Enoch had spoken of it, of course. But no one had the chance to live it. Today we all have the chance to live it. The only prerequisite, the only condition, is to be totally immersed in the present instant. You have more chance to discover and live life by looking at nature than by listening to me. We are at this point today. But it is so simple that the ego will never accept it, and the spiritual ego is even worse. It will make it enter into a contradiction, into a warming up, into a terrible anger that will consume your own illusions. It's not a play on words when you say it's the natural state. The more natural and spontaneous you are, the more available you are for life. We talked at length during these first 2 days about acceptance, about reception. Do not even ask yourself the question of saying it is acceptable, it is unacceptable, it is horrible. But before reacting, settle into your body, take brushes, do sudokus if you want, whatever. Be fully present in what you're doing, whatever you're doing, and everything will happen naturally. If it doesn't, and look, we all still do it at times, you're doing something and you're thinking, there are thoughts going through you. You're cleaning up and you're thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow, or I have to make dinner tonight. You are not in the present instant. That is why I talked about painting or gardening, because it is something you are not used to doing. And when it is something you are not used to, it requires attention of consciousness, total attention. And then freedom will find you. But as long as you have the will, the willingness to understand, you are not available. You are still your life, your story, but you are not life. I had the opportunity to say it yesterday, you have many brothers and sisters, and especially sisters, who even with different words, because they do not know what a gape is, but they live the same thing. You have famous and less famous people who say with their own language, the same thing. There are no more kakras than worlds, there is just the pure felicity of the instant. That is where you remember that you are anterior to creation. And that is where you see that the whole of creation is only a dream, an experience inscribed in what does not exist, which is time, inscribed in what does not exist either, which we call dimensions. And I have gone through certain dimensions, as I was able to do, all the dimensions, led me to understand and to live that none of this was true. Only the present instant, which does not depend on any world, any history, any condition and any future, was true. It is so simple. Everything else is just illusions, illusions that have already been maintained by religions, but then by all spiritual movements without exception, I say, without any exception. That is why Brother K had warned us at the end of 2012, in the last quarter, that all societies, all associations and all groupings had to be stopped. That was done all by itself for those who know the story. Because freedom does not suffer any compromise with anything other than the present instant. You cannot believe me, I repeat it every time, you cannot follow me, you can only live it or not. It is you who are letting go of the stories, the energies, the vibrations, the past scenarios, the future scenarios, and there you are free. It is instantaneous. If it is not instantaneous, I invite you to look within yourself the fear of dying that is yours. I said it already long before this time, that spirituality, face the fear of death. In the present instant, you are never born and therefore you cannot die. What disappears is the form, in the white paradise. What disappears is consciousness, thanks to white paradise. Only pure felicity remains, SHANTINILAYA, the abode of supreme peace, and that is all. Today, one should no longer tell stories to oneself or to others. Of course, we can talk about past lives among ourselves, but we are neither attached to them, nor submissive to them, and we are certainly not fooled. At that moment, freedom is total. You can feel the energies, live the energies, but you are centered in the heart of the heart, in time zero. And you really, concretely see it all as fun, as games. That's why I called it a video game, because there aren't even any actors. There's just a program that's been written. As you know today, scientists, advanced physicists, all say that we're in a computer simulation. You want to know the truth? Look at the Matrix. We are in a computer simulation, but as long as you believe in spirituality, in a becoming, you can't see it, you can't live it. To stop the engine of suffering of any kind, even if you are at the end of your life, is to settle down in this beatitude, which is no other place than here and now. Experience it and you can only be convinced. There, were scalar and derivative waves. Elisa, you spoke of everything but scalar waves. Laughter. Oh, yes, I mentioned scalar waves. I've given you the 5 main figures. I told you they could be painted, plotted. In fact, there are artists who have drawn some very beautiful Tesseract tracings with 24 points, and they are just as effective on screen, printed, as they are on a motherboard, as they were made. In general, it is silver, copper or gold-covered brass. It could be carved in stone. If you even had the ability to picture it in your head, as some are able to, with a tracing in your head, you would place yourself in time zero. This unknown that is now known, concerns enough consciousness, so that all this would be easy for anyone, regardless of any belief that would immerse itself in the present instant. The confinement, linked to the virus, has not only allowed many people to become aware of the manipulation, but many have found themselves. They had no spiritual notion, felt no energy, no vibration, no door, no star, no chakra, no entity. They were beings who simply lived their lives without question. They were totally in their lives, in the present and therefore, available. I am not going to make friends. The biggest trap today in relation to the truth is spirituality. It is the ultimate trap of all these people who want to take you to pronounce series of numbers, to practice exercises with exotic names, people who sell you history, who tell you, you have been this, you will be that. How do you want to think, at those times, about being in the present? It is not possible. It's not possible. I'm not asking you again to believe me or to accept it. Besides, when I say that, I suppose there are many who must be in a mad rage. Well, that's just as well. The rage consumes in the fire of love. Laughter. We will have testimonies that have come to us for Amram, I believe, when he returns, from brothers and sisters who are dying of an illness and they are in incredible peace. Moreover, all those who had been accompanying people at the end of life, realize that more and more people who are about to leave, are in the light before they leave. You know, when I was young, I worked at the SAMU, at the emergency services, and we were sometimes called for people who had already died in their sleep or something else. And already at that time, I was very surprised, whatever the age, to see people who had died with a smile of beatitude, and others who had also died in their sleep, with a mask of terrible suffering. Today, death is beatitude. It is also a way to wake up, because there will be no more reincarnation. There will be no more need for form. And for all those who are living it today, you know that you are at home, and when you are at home and you know it, who would have the desire or the will to manifest the slightest world or the slightest form? So the 6th root race, which all these people have talked about, is exactly what we are right now. It is the reunion, the fusion, not only with the solar spirit but with the whole of creation. The cetaceans have liberated, the whales have liberated the source codes in the song of creation, which will translate for us in an audible way, not by the song of the me that we hear in the left ear, or by the sound of the spirit on the right, but by what has been called the trumpets, and the song of the earth. At that moment, everyone will be seized with fear or joy, it makes no difference, fear or joy. It's time to wake up. This is the moment when the dream is seen for what it is. It doesn't have to be judged against anyone or anything. As I said and as we experienced 2 years ago, it is about reabsorbing the stream, reabsorbing the dream. What we called 2 years ago the absorption of essences, today we no longer need your attention and your desire. As soon as you stay quiet, it just takes care of itself. If you do not experience it, it is because you are not at peace and there is in you, what I invite you to find is this fear of death and this fear of the extinction of consciousness. That's all there is. It has been said and repeated by the interveners, fear or love, suffering or death. As I explained in neuroscience, pain is not necessarily suffering. It becomes suffering when you are opposed to it, that is to say, when you have not transcended it. Elisa's remark and laughter. Because you didn't take her in. Accept what is, take care of healing after, but not before, and you are free, even motionless, dying, it doesn't matter. Again, laughter. Love puts an end to suffering, not to pain. But who cares? What hurts is the suffering of pain. But pain in itself, it's neutral. You can see the threshold of tolerance to pain. It's not the same in everyone. It is not the same in men and women. Women are so used to dealing with pain that a woman can deal with much greater suffering than a man. That's the truth. So, the more lucid you are, the more lucid you will be, but lucidity can result from total confusion. Lucidity can be found through total confusion, because at that moment, what happens? You are in resistance to life, what Nisargadatta said, and when you are in resistance to life, needing to understand, need to explain, need to resolve, you are simply not available in life. Life has always flowed in abundance, but we cannot live it. Even the masters, as they were called, even the stars, could not live this absolute. We are here on earth, as humans in this body, the point of resolution of the mystery of creation. That is why it has always been said that it had to happen in this body, through this body, in the here and now, framed by the 4 pillars of the heart. You don't need anything else. If you think or believe that you need anything else, and there is no prohibition, if I may say so, to use a scalar wave or a crystal, but you must realize that you do not need anything. You are the totality of creation, all the archangels, all the masters of light and the devil are within you, there are no outer entities. They are all just interference fringes of light diffraction interference. When you reach this last stage, there is no longer any form, world or alibaba that holds. And at that point you can say like Diddy, like me, like so many others, I've always been there. It's just the character that disappears. It's just the soul that was trapped in the astral by those same spiritual forces called archetypes, masters and stars. But there's no judgment to be made. That's what we wrote. That's all we wrote. Alleviate yourself of all that you believe to be useful, even your experiences, your vehicles, that are of no use to you, to be in peace. It could have brought you closer to peace. That was the goal, the appearance of the supramind, which began to descend on this earth at the moment when most of the masters left, the year 84, at least for all those who were incarnated. Today, consider that there's a master, wherever he is, incarnated or not, is a heresy. You can never discover true autonomy by following anyone, no model, spiritual or religious, even the most prestigious, no longer offers any interest today. How do you want to live that there's no one, this absolute beatitude, when you agree to all these stories? It is impossible. It is not possible. It is only when you realize, it is also called resilience, the more you will resist, the more you will consume yourself. A burning sensation that some people feel, is the dissolution of the last illusions. Even the fire of the heart, the ascensional crown, the sacred luminous gate and the double terrace of the heart, whose structure I had explained, are no longer necessary. The key is the present instant. The key is laziness, the divine indifference. Seen from the outside, from the one who was inscribed in the person, it is pure madness. Evidently, they do not live it. Yesterday, I found a sentence thus spoke Zarathustra, whom I love very much, of Nietzsche. And those who danced were considered mad by those who did not hear the music, the song of the me, the song of the spirit in the heart of the heart. There is nothing to justify, there is nothing to demonstrate. We can only bear witness, for those who live it, with words, with silence, with presence. Natalie. Sister. Yes. I was wondering, the double terrace of the heart. Yes. Sister. Do I can't picture it. It actually goes in here and out the back. Or, oh, no. Sister. Does this go in the back, too? No, no. There's something called the Toro del Caro. It's a dual resonance circuit. There's one that goes from front to back, sister. Yes. At the Kira's T point, at the back, starting from the center of the heart, and the other one starting from the other side of the chest, from Kira's T and coming back to the hard point. Why do you want to picture it? What's the point? Sister. But it's just for thee, no. Just because you're gonna picture it doesn't mean you're gonna live it. You're not going to live it until you stop picturing anything. Live it and picture it. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a circuit, sister. I'm visual, you see, I can't see it. I understand what you're saying, but I can't see it, there's no question of seeing it. Sister. Yes, I know. I repeat the sentence that Enel repeated to me for years, apart from Hick and Nunce, the sentence that he repeated to me, and that I now perfectly understand in order to live it. To know is not to see. And seeing is not living. There, it's as simple as that. Sister, thank you. So, go to the essential, where there is nothing, because you will find everything there. But as long as there is the feeling, the thought or the lived experience, that you are a story whatever it is, even if you have the memory of your past lives, I know all my past lives, with the dates and everything, but I don't care, it's not me. I'm not my past lives, even if it's something tangible. It's dead, because I'm here, right now. There is nothing worse than believing that you are the result of your past lives, because you place yourself in the law of action/reaction. It has always been said that there are two laws in the universe, the law of action/reaction and the law of grace, which is pure love. This is non-duality. But it is useless to talk about non-duality, we must live it. And to live it, we must let go of all beliefs, of course, all adhesions to any egregore, because the egregore is not only the spiritual forces, the word cancer is an egregore. As soon as there is egregore, there cannot be freedom. An anchor and a sower of light, as we used to say before, is only because he knows the world, he lives it, that the world is in him. And that all the others are only him. This is not a play on words. It is the reality of living. We're no longer in the concepts. We're not in energies. We're not in vibrations. We're not in visions. We are not in stories. We are not in the future or in a becoming. The more you are going to live that, the more, as Biggie said yesterday, I think, you will have a smile on your face no matter what happens, because you are really living that it is a video game. So of course, in the video game or elsewhere on the theater stage, the actor who plays the same play every day, can sometimes change words or change expressions. In the video game, you move controllers where all the possibilities have been written. We are in a binary computer simulation where the program is perfectly written. Do you want to be part of the program? Or do you want to see that you wrote the program to remember? As they say, get to the point. Let life come alive, and the more you do that, the more you'll really and concretely see that you don't need suffering, you don't need illness at any age, or at least chronic illness. You have the right to catch the cabin or a cold. But that's not why you'll get sick. You'll get sick, but you'll never get sick. You can't get sick. And there's also this great freedom, because when you free yourself from the models, even from the channelings, I have not been fooled since 2012, I have only accompanied history, knowing that there's no history. For 8 years, when you are no longer fooled, you can play with what you want, with Reiki, with what you want. But you are no longer fooled. That is to say, you don't assign a role or a liberating function to all these tools that simply allow you to be well in this world, but there's no freedom in that. Freedom, it is total or it does not exist. It is neither internal nor external, even if at one time we spoke of internal freedom, only internal, because in the absolute, really and concretely, there can be no inside and no outside. Everything inside is outside and everything outside is inside. It is the whole and the nothingness. The all contains the nothingness and the nothingness contains the whole. This is what we called at the time the junction of being and non-being, which today in the absolute, means absolutely nothing. There is no more being than non-being. There is the life of the flowing dream, and there is beatitude, without form, without time and without space. At that moment, you play the game, your role, whether you are a father, an industrialist, a sweeper, it doesn't change anything. It's just a role that you forged, that you've written to, just to be where you are now. Besides, think about it. Where else do you want to be but where you are? Right there, in the middle of your heart, here and now. Not in a reverie of any kind. It's awfully simple. Do you have any questions? Because I'm the only one talking right now. Skater waves, well, I've really given you the rudiments. If you want more hints, I've made satsangs entirely devoted to it. So, you type the keyword satsang on ludgirasapatheos.it website, or on Facebook, and you'll find it. The more months go by, the more weeks go by, the less I can rely on this real knowledge that I have acquired, because I can't do otherwise. It's not a mental wish to say, no, the evidence is so obvious, that all that seems to me today is being useful for health, for energy, but has no use for the truth. Truth is naked. Question. Elisa, I will see if, check in Spanish if you have any questions. Sister. Scalars, they work like this and like this? How do they work? Sister. The skater wave, you know we have little ones we? Yes. I know. It's working great. Sister. It works both ways. Both ways, there's no two-way sense. Sister. That's right, whether you put it on or not, there is no sense. There is no sense. The skater wave, it propagates itself, we say infinitely, because it is not electromagnetic. It is not subject to electricity or magnetism, even if it is generated by electrical generators such as the Lekowski or Priori generators. Sister, what if you want to wear it? You can put it on, yeah. I sometimes wear it. But I wasn't listening. It's in Spanish. Elisa, I'm trying to read it. Ah, sorry. Elisa, to record it, to understand it myself and to be able to translate it. So, message of my character. Discussion among the participants of the group in Spanish. Brother, I have a question. How, wait. There is a question. You wanted to ask a question or, well, go ahead. Just wait until she translates because apparently it's not, brother. On scalar waves, we had been working on anything that's shape waves, etc. It started at the pyramids, you find it in the crystals, it has resonances in your body, except that shape waves like pyramids are fossilizing, except that shape waves like the flower of life, which everyone talks about, is a confinement. Brother, okay. But the Merkaba, which is cold, for example, the Merkaba is something else, the interdimensional Merkaba. Elisa mentions that the translation is important. We were talking about shape waves. For example, the Merkaba, by the way the crystal, for example the pyramid, these are fossilizing systems. Everybody knows that. You can make a pyramid out of cardboard, whatever you want, you put a piece of meat on it, it will never rot, it will fossilize. It's the opposite of life. It's the crystallization of life. It's the opposite of life. So, of course, shape waves can be therapeutic, we don't deny that. But for the consciousness, it's confining. The scalar wave is also a shape wave. Elisa, it is also enclosing? No, not at all since it brings to time zero. Fortunately. Elisa, I want to talk about the flower of life. Sister, are we sure? One day it is, one day, what I don't understand is that every time there are new things, you can see it. One day it's this, one day it's something else. After a while, I think you have to stop, you know, that's what I think. What did she say? Elisa, she says that one day it's one thing, and one day it's something else. In relation to what? Sister, good by the way, in relation to yourself, you have evolved. You speak that you have evolved. You keep evolving all the time. All teachers like you, they evolve, they understand, and at the same time, I admit that I am always surprised to see how you are enough, not peremptory, but quite sure, and then tomorrow you will talk about something else but with the same assurance. Of course I will. Sister. So, at the same time it's good. It's true that you have to be sure when you transmit something, but after a while, I think you have to take a step back on all these things. Oh yes, absolutely, I'm talking about it, as I said, not for you who are here and who are going through all this, but for the people who come in and perceive that they need this. Sister. Yes, that's right. Afterwards, it's tools, but afterwards, those tools are there right now, but tomorrow, there will be another one. In fact, it's not going well at all. We're going to say the complete opposite. But, what surprises me is that we go from one to the other, that is to say that we have a tool, it's not the other way around. Sister. And then, well, afterwards we realize that our tool wasn't up to what, I mean, but it's not the other way around. Other sister. No, it's not that, it's that, in fact, it's all there already. It's complementary. Other sister. But there's a time when this information will be useful. Sister. Yes, yes, no, but sure. Other sister. And at some other time others will capture it and at some other time it was never captured. So, in fact, each time, you are resting on a spiral of dimensions, you see, it seems to you that they are different dimensions. They speak at the same time. Other sister. It sounds like different information to you, but in fact, sister. No, no, that's not what I'm saying, it's that the tools all have their purpose, everything has its purpose anyway. That's it. But then for people, at some point, for such and such a person such and such a thing, and so on. But what surprises me is that, when you present a tool, it seems logical to keep a real distance, as it is, as we know it today. Science is criticized for being peremptory too, science that knows everything, etc. It's exactly the same. With tools, you present a tool, oh yes, it's extraordinary, and then you see another one, and that works exactly the same way. It speaks at the same time. Elisa, I don't see it like that. We don't see it like that at all. It's a point of view. For me there is no contradiction between using a crystal or a dollar-print tablet, aspirin, paracetamol, and being free. For my Spanish friends, you summarize. Elisa translated. If you have, I don't want to name names, but you have, for example, people who talk about this presence, you ask them what a cabra is, and they look at you with their eyes. Elisa, you should wait until I finish because it's important. Laughter. Elisa continues translating. French translation, basically. Elisa, well, that's what you actually said. Laughs. Sister. but you say it with such intensity that, we're here. Elisa continues in Spanish. Yes. Laughs. Elisa, I was saying, that's what you said, but we didn't understand. What didn't we understand? Elisa, but what you said. Laughter. Elisa, actually, I was saying, she was saying one thing. And that she was saying something else. And that in fact, what you were saying was neither that nor that, it was beyond that. Well, that's good. Sister, I wasn't saying something else, I was saying everything is there and the forms are there, but you can only connect them when something. In fact, I mean as you say, the kakras, me, I have always lived without knowing what a kakra was and it happened very, very well. I didn't need it. I never even imagined there was a kakra. You see, and yet I knew I was there and it was me and nothing else. Elisa, yes, but there are people who maybe need to go through a kakra. Yes. That's right, anything is possible. Sister, absolutely, we go into the information, who become informed for, and so, that's one thing and, Elisa, there are things that were not possible before. It's not an evolution, it's, for example, the triangles, as he explained, it crystallized and then everything was there. For example, scalar waves were there too, but we couldn't get to that, then, and at that moment, in total contradiction even with what I experienced, with the energy, the crystals and others, all that is cinema in relation to the truth. Yes, I know it is. But I am obliged to show the cinema or, in inverted commas, to make you beat around the bush to find that truth. What is intelligence? I'm not talking about the mind, I'm talking about intelligence. It's not IQ, intelligence quotient. Intelligence, let alone the intelligence of light, human intelligence, not the mind, is the ability to connect seemingly disparate elements, to see causality and go beyond causality. But, I can see that, and besides, there are many people who speak, who express themselves, you said it very well, who do not even know what a kappa is. And they are free. Sister, it's seeing the evidence, because the evidence is, it's evident. Sister, she's immediate, she informs you immediately, that's right. Sister, that you don't have to go through anything, and that today, talking about Kakra, it speaks at the same time. Compared to liberty, it's useless. Elisa, at that time, he often said that aspirin. On the other hand, when I want to treat, brother, it is not the same thing to wake up and be free. Elisa, he says that it is not the same thing to free oneself as to wake up. Yes, it is. Elisa, because there are people who wake up but are not free. Exactly. There are a lot of them. How many people have woken up since 2012? A lot of people. Brother, someone who wakes up but is not free. That's not freedom. Brother, but to free yourself, you have to be outside the dual system. This is it. The awakening is the awakening of the dream. Brother, yes, but to be free, you must be outside the dual system. You have to see the dream, you have to live it to see that it's only a dream. It's acceptance that creates that. Sister, actually, it's not outside, because if you want one, you put it outside of you. So that's actually a duality, you involve it like that, you have that acceptance at the same time, and you have some, sister. You don't distance yourself from it, you don't distance yourself from it all, you just integrate. As Dorothy said, of course. We are among those who feel the energies, since most of us here feel them, we have been through it. But I am saying that today, there is an instantaneous path, since there is no path, which is the acceptance that solves everything. Elisa, it is really a passage. Because you can be very awake, but if you don't accept, brother, there may be a lot of information. We're in agreement. Yes, we do. Elisa, then I don't know. I'm not smart, but I pick things up. Yes. Intelligence is not the important thing. You say, you're not intelligent. No, that's not it. You connect things when you get them. Sister, what should reach you, reaches you immediately. Elisa, that's it. I understand things, but I can't even explain them. He is the one who explains them. I don't know how to explain them. But I know it is like that, but I don't know why I know it, I don't even know. Sister, putting words on what doesn't exist. Elisa, I don't even know. I don't even know how to analyze, to dissect. I know that's what it is and I pick up the words, it's as if you swallowed them, but you can't explain them afterwards. Sister, that's the difficulty. Remember, consciousness always works. Analysis, synthesis, integration. Yes, I took the example of the driver's license. It's the same thing, analysis, but there are some who have gone straight to integration. Elisa, that's what you're saying. No. Exactly. Intelligence, the ability to connect things, will inevitably lead to the silence. Your intelligence is replaced by the intelligence of the light. That's what we've been saying for years now. Sister. Which seems obvious, in all circumstances, even if you are in front of someone who denies you, who tries to deny you something for the primitive intelligence. There is something wrong with. There is something wrong in. Elisa. There you go. Exactly. It is exactly that, and yet the analytical is better. She shows you that it is not like that. Sister. She's going to put words to you that will allow you to articulate an idea with which you're going to work to perhaps demonstrate your obviousness, which is there. And that is in fact this articulation that will make you inform what is shapeless. Elisa. That's it, exactly. Sister. And so, from there, yes, you can navigate in this dimension. You see, you are very flexible at the bottom. You are in the video game. Sister. And what's happening? There you go. We're in the video game business. I'm so in charge of the video game business. If I had done art, I would have told you about painting. I studied neuroscience, Chinese medicine, good. Sister. Again, even in art, when I started touching the earth, at one point, I needed it, and I would look at, for example, something that came out of one. I had a lump, and all of a sudden, something came out that I didn't recognize. In this case, I could talk. I had a, wait, we have to translate for the others, because we're not alone here. Sister. Here, I'll summarize very quickly, if you like. There is something in the clay of earth itself that you don't know, but it comes from within. It goes beyond what you want to do, it's inscribed. Elisa. There are painters who create works, there are, where does it come from? There is no technique. Sister. No, it's inside. It's spontaneity. Sister. Yes, it's the evidence, it's the evidence. It's the moment when you become transparent and empty enough to let the creative intelligence manifest. Sister. Because I was in publication, if you like. And I was looking at what is written there, I thought to myself, but this is not me, what is this image? Yes, that's how it works. Sister. The body of a pregnant woman, because I didn't want a child either. You see, it's the spontaneous, natural state. Sister. Without head, without arms and legs, you see the carrier without a head, and that's it, and it just appeared in the lump, you see. But, in truth, you don't create anything, because in physics, nothing is lost, nothing is created, everything is transformed. So, you know, when you do energetics, you say that you bring energy. This is not true, since the system is closed, what is called entropy. So, we use concepts, we show that there are atoms, as I was saying, for example, an atom of anything, protons, electrons, but all that is empty, matter is empty. It speaks at the same time. Elisa, I can't understand all that, but I understand the essence. Of course you do. Elisa, I don't even understand it, you're living it. Elisa, I live it or I feel it, and I can't even explain it to you, because I'm not smart enough to dissect it. But I get it first. It's not a question of intelligence. It is a matter of mind. There are some who have the structure to study and relate, and others who will experience it instantaneously without the need to relate. This is the example I was giving, especially in relation to the women who speak today. The names, you know them, well, there are dozens of them, whether it is Nasreen, Jint, Betty, and so many others. They are living it. But don't ask them to explain to you the Christ, the doors, the stars, or any other dimension. Don't forget, though, that in this story, there are beings who show you the stage and show you the workings. That was the purpose of Autra's dimensions. What was the purpose of Autra's dimensions? Because the most dangerous people in relation to the truth is who? It is those who are in spirituality, as I have been for so many years. It's a total scam. There's only you. There's only a gape. Everything else passes. But there was a logic, to go up the thread and demonstrate, dead or alive, the swindle of spirituality and consciousness. Some people live it spontaneously. It's been said. The simplest being who is simply in his life and who has a good heart, is much closer to the truth than the one who lives the energies, the vibrations and others. But it had to be, sister, not even with a good heart, because you don't ask yourself, well, you are the heart, so you don't ask yourself if your heart is good or not. You arrive and you know very well that good, you are in a relationship, therefore in contact, and in fact, it is the outside that seems strange to you, that seems strange to you. Yes. Sister. You see, it's that outer skin in which you come to bathe, that you just put on and you say, but how he thinks things, how, and then you begin to organize your own mind, it's yours that one. And you can see that coats that exist around it, but you don't penetrate because, well, because you don't know where they are. You don't understand what they are, you don't understand what they're going through, and yet, sister. Well, I mean, they were in the box, you see, I couldn't get into it. When I could get in, I could contact my guides, we'll say guides in quotation marks, at any time I wanted, well, except that in fact, I would have stayed there all the time, because they had to keep me, because as soon as they were no longer there, I would say, wait, 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 because there's a lot of people here who don't get it. Bottom line. In Spanish. Do you need a break, or should we just keep going? We've been at it for 2 hours. It's your call. Elisa, a little break. We're taking a little break. We'll take it again from 1 to 2 hours, for example, before lunch. But, I'd like, Elisa, for me, we start again at 1 o'clock, 2 hours minus 10, because I have, yes. So we'll pick up at 10 to 10 to 1 till 10 to 2. Which I would also like, though, because when we talk together, off mic and off session, you all tell me extraordinary things about what you've been through, and it's important that people hear. Because as they say, all roads lead to Rome. And that's the truth. Sister, I really, at a certain time, well, because I go forward to the present moment, I forget what happened, you see, even if someone make me a mess, yes. That's life. Sister. 2 days later, I don't even remember, even though it's the others who tell me, who carry hate, which is extremely boring and heavy and, oh, yeah, but don't you remember what we did to you? Oh, that was yesterday, today it's something else again, I don't need, and then that's how I get rid of, Elisa. I don't remember, I'm losing my memory, so it's even easier for me, I don't remember, it speaks at the same time. Come on. Laughs, we'll take a break until 10 to 1, and then we'll go back for another hour. And I would ask you to think about what you want to say about your experiences, because everyone's experience is different. And the goal is to make you resonate, not vibrate, but resonate with what is said. Because if you find a point of agreement with your lived experience, it will amplify, for all those who are listening, the understanding and the lived experience, both. This was the purpose of the testimonies and lived experiences of Agape or of Agape's healing. But today, each of you has something to say where the other will recognize himself. There's no discrepancy. It's just that, alright, we'll pick this up at 10 to 1. By Jean-Luc Ayoun. Less Transformations. English Revised Translation. LMF.